My girlfriend asked for distance and told me not to reach out to her. A few days later, she posted pictures online of herself vacationing with her ex-boyfriend. I respected what she wanted, changed the locks to my apartment, and sold the car that was legally under my name. When she finally came back, her key no longer worked, and the parking spot she used every day was completely empty. I guess I should explain everything from the start because, honestly, the whole situation is still difficult for me to process. Around 3 weeks ago, my girlfriend, Emily F., completely blindsided me with a text message. We had been together for nearly 2 years and had been living together in my apartment for about a year. From my perspective, things seemed stable. Sure, she had been acting a little distant recently, but nothing serious enough to make me think our relationship was falling apart. Then, on a random Tuesday evening while I was cooking dinner, my phone buzzed with a message from her. Things have been feeling complicated lately, and I really need some space to think and figure things out. Please don't contact me for a while. I'll reach out when I'm ready. That message hit me hard. Hearing someone ask for space is rarely a good sign. Still, I try to be mature and understanding about it. I replied calmly, "Okay, Emily, I understand. Take all the time you need." After that, nothing. Absolute silence. But that was what she asked for, wasn't it? No contact. So I respected her wishes. For the next couple of days, I stayed in the apartment trying to keep myself busy, confused and hurt, replaying everything in my mind and wondering what exactly she meant by complicated. Thankfully, work helped distract me. Then Friday night arrived. I was lying on the couch, scrolling through Instagram out of boredom when I suddenly saw a post from one of our mutual friends. Emily had been tagged in it. The photos showed beaches, cocktails, sunshine, and smiles. Emily looked happier than she had in months. Standing right beside her with his arm around her waist was Jordan M. Dodd, her ex-boyfriend, the same ex she constantly insisted was ancient history. The caption read, "Living our best life. Island getaway. Reunited." The moment I saw it, my stomach dropped. So that was what needing space actually meant. A tropical vacation with her ex, while telling me not to contact her. The hurt quickly turned into something colder and clearer. She didn't simply want time alone to think. She wanted me out of the picture while she tested whether getting back with her ex would work, all while keeping me around as a backup option. Meanwhile, she was still living in my apartment and benefiting from everything I provided while specifically telling me to stay silent. That realization changed everything. Fine. She wanted space and zero contact. I decided to give her exactly that. The next morning, I started with the locks. I called a locksmith and had both the deadbolt and front door lock replaced. The total cost was around $250, but at that point, the peace of mind felt worth every dollar. Her old key was now useless. Then there was the car. To explain that situation properly, about 6 months earlier, Emily's old car finally died. She needed something dependable for work because she worked in social media marketing and claimed she had to attend frequent client meetings. The problem was her credit wasn't strong enough to finance a vehicle on her own. So I helped her. I bought a used Mazda CX-5 for around $18,000. Even though she used it every day, the important detail was that everything connected to the vehicle, the loan, title, registration, and insurance, was entirely under my name. Legally, it belonged to me. The arrangement between us was simple. She would send me monthly payments, which she mostly did, and in return she could treat it like her own car. Over time, she definitely did. She added decorations, left her belongings inside, and acted like it was fully hers. But on paper it wasn't. I grabbed the spare key I'd kept, drove the SUV to a dealership nearby that purchases used vehicles, and briefly explained the situation. "I'm the registered owner, and I need to sell the car." They inspected it quickly and offered an estimated value of about $16,500, pending the final inspection and title verification. I agreed and signed the paperwork necessary to begin the process. They explained that everything would likely be finalized within a few business days. I left the car there and took an Uber home. When I returned to the apartment complex, her parking spot sat completely empty. As for her belongings, I didn't throw anything away. Her clothes and personal items were still packed inside the spare bedroom closet. I wasn't interested in being petty or destructive. But I also wasn't going to let her walk back into my apartment without a conversation, especially after she specifically told me not to contact her. Oddly enough, I felt calm through all of it, almost like I was handling an unavoidable surgery. Of course, I was hurt. I felt stupid and betrayed. But more than anger, I felt clarity. She had asked for space and no communication. Then she publicly showed me that she was spending her space reconnecting with her ex-boyfriend. To me, that was all the confirmation I needed that the relationship was already over. I wasn't trying to get revenge. I was simply protecting my home, my finances, and my peace of mind. After that, all I could do was wait. According to Instagram, her living our best life vacation still had another week left. So I waited to see what would happen the moment she came back home and discovered that her key no longer opened the door. Update 1. Well, she finally returned. Everything happened last Tuesday around 9 p.m. I was sitting in the living room watching television, trying not to think too much about the entire mess, when I suddenly heard keys rattling outside my apartment door. Then I heard the unmistakable sound of a key sliding into the lock. Silence followed for a second. Then more rattling, more scraping, this time faster, more aggressive. Then came the knocking. Knock, knock, knock. Ryan, what's going on? Open the door. It was Emily's voice, irritated at first, but underneath that irritation, I could hear panic beginning to creep in. I took a slow breath before walking over and opening the door just a few inches, leaving the security chain attached. There she stood with a suitcase beside her, suntanned from the trip and visibly annoyed. My key doesn't work, she snapped. What happened to the lock? I changed it, I answered calmly. She blinked in disbelief. What? Why would you do that? You asked for space and no contact, Emily. I decided to make it permanent. Her expression twisted instantly. What are you even talking about? I just needed time to think. You can't lock me out like this. I saw the vacation pictures with Jordan, I replied evenly. Looks like you already figured things out. The irritation on her face disappeared and was replaced with anger mixed with a quick flash of panic. Ryan, it was only a trip, she said quickly. It didn't mean anything. We're just friends. I raised an eyebrow. Friends who go on romantic island vacations together while telling their boyfriend not to contact them? Got it. Ryan, stop being ridiculous and let me inside. My stuff is in there. Then her eyes shifted toward the parking area. Her expression changed immediately. Where's my car? She demanded. Ryan, where's my car? The confidence in her tone irritated me more than anything else. She genuinely expected everything to remain exactly as she left it, like I was supposed to sit quietly and wait for her return. First of all, I said, it's my apartment. Second, it was never your car. Legally, it belongs to me, and I'm selling it. It's already at the dealership. Her mouth literally fell open. You're selling it? You can't do that. I paid for that car. You made payments to use it, Emily. I corrected her. But you never owned it. The title, registration, loan, and insurance are all under my name. The sale process already started. This is insane, she yelled. You're stealing from me. I'm calling the police. She immediately pulled out her phone. I shrugged. Go ahead. Tell them your ex-boyfriend changed the locks on his own apartment after you asked for no contact and went on vacation with another guy. Then explain that he's selling a vehicle that's legally titled in his own name. Let me know how that conversation goes. She froze with the phone halfway to her ear. Then the anger on her face turned vicious. You're a horrible person, she spat. No, I answered. You planned a vacation with your ex while asking me to disappear quietly. I respected exactly what you asked for and dealt with the reality of it. You don't get to put me on hold while you test drive another relationship. Before she could answer, another voice interrupted us. Emily, what's happening? Her sister Brooke F. walked up from the parking lot. Apparently, she had been waiting downstairs in the car the whole time. Emily immediately switched tactics and started crying the second Brooke reached the doorway. He changed the locks, she sobbed dramatically. He's selling my car and kicking me out. Brooke instantly turned toward me with disbelief written all over her face. Seriously, Ryan? After everything she's done for you, you lock her out and sell her stuff? It's my apartment, Brooke, I replied firmly. And it was my car? Emily asked for no contact, then flew off on vacation with Jordan. Check Instagram if you need proof. We're finished. She needed space, Brooke argued. You're supposed to support her, not punish her. Support her while she cheats on me? I said flatly. No thanks. She made her decision. Now she gets to deal with the consequences. Emily immediately demanded her belongings back. I want my things right now. I checked the time. It's 9 at night, I said. Not happening. Send me a message with a date and time to pick up your stuff. I'll pack everything and leave it near the entrance. You're not coming past the foyer. You don't get to decide that, she snapped. Actually, I do, I replied. My apartment. My rules. You want to no contact, remember? This is what that arrangement looks like now. Text me a time. Goodbye. Then I shut the door and locked the deadbolt. The moment the door closed, my hands started shaking. Part adrenaline, part anger, part leftover heartbreak. But stronger than any of that was relief. At least the confrontation was over for now. For another 5 minutes, I could still hear them outside. Emily yelling loudly while Brooke tried to calm her down. Although honestly, she also seemed to encourage some of the drama. Eventually, they finally left. A few hours later, I received a text message. Not from Emily, but from Brooke's phone. Emily needs her things tomorrow at 10 sharp. Be ready. No, please. No, thank you. Just another demand. I replied with one word. Fine. The rest of the evening I spent packing up all of Emily's belongings. Clothes, makeup, books, toiletries, random decorations, chargers, little keepsakes, everything I could find. I stacked it all neatly near the front entrance. Oddly enough, the process felt therapeutic. Later that same week, around Thursday afternoon, the dealership called me. The vehicle inspection was complete, and their final offer was confirmed at $16,350. They lowered it slightly because of tire wear, but overall it was still fair. I went there Friday afternoon, signed the final transfer paperwork, and accepted the check. The second the money hit my bank account, it felt like another door closing on the relationship. An expensive chapter of my life, financially and emotionally, was finally ending. Now all that remained was dealing with pickup day. And honestly, I already expected even more drama. Update 2. The past week has been unbelievable. The level of entitlement somehow keeps getting worse. At this point, it's honestly impressive. Wednesday arrived exactly as scheduled. 10 a.m. sharp. Knock. There was another knock at the door. But this time, it wasn't Emily standing outside. It was Brooke and Emily's mother, Karen. Emily herself stayed down in the car, apparently too emotional to face me directly. At least, that's what they implied. The second I opened the door, Karen immediately launched into tears. Realistically, they felt more performative than genuine. Ryan, she said shakily, how could you do this to her after 2 years together? Emily loves you. I looked at her calmly. Apparently not enough to stop herself from going on vacation with her ex while asking me for space. Karen quickly shook her head. It was a mistake. She was confused. People make mistakes. You should forgive her. And selling her car, she continued. That was cruel. She needs it for work. It wasn't her car, I replied firmly. Legally, it was mine, and her confusion resulted in her betraying our relationship. Actions come with consequences. The car has already been sold. Then I opened the door wider so they could see the stacks of boxes organized near the foyer. Everything I found is here. Take all of it today, because this will be the only pickup opportunity. Karen's expression hardened immediately. We need to check the closets and bathroom ourselves, she said. You can't just hand over whatever you decided to pack. I packed everything I could find, I answered, and neither of you will be going any further into my apartment. Don't be irrational, Ryan. I'm not being irrational, I said evenly. And if I accidentally miss something, then unfortunately that's how it is. You stay there. I stay here. You take the boxes, and we're done. It was obvious they wanted to push their way inside. Whether it was to continue arguing or search for something valuable they could later accuse me of hiding, I don't know. But it absolutely was not happening. They muttered complaints under their breath, but eventually they started carrying the boxes downstairs. It took 3 separate trips to load everything into their vehicle. The entire time, Karen continued delivering nonstop lectures about how insensitive I was, how devastated Emily had become, and how I somehow owed her compensation for the car. I barely reacted anymore. I just repeated the same sentence over and over like a broken record. It was my car, legally mine. That was all there was to say. Once they finally left, the next phase began, the messages. Most of them came from Emily herself. One minute she would send emotional apologies. I miss you. I made a terrible mistake. Please take me back. Then hours later, the tone would completely change. You owe me money for the car. That was my investment. I'm taking you to small claims court. I ignored the emotional manipulation completely. But eventually I answered one of the financial threats. Emily, the car legally belonged to me. The title, loan, registration, and insurance were all under my name. The payments you made were for your use of the vehicle while we were together. Consider those payments equivalent to rent. There is nothing further to discuss. After sending that message, I blocked her number. Then I blocked Brooke. Then Karen. Unfortunately, that still wasn't the end of it. Soon mutual friends started reaching out to me. Mostly people I only knew through Emily. The tone of the messages was immediately accusatory. Bro, I heard what you did to Emily. Selling her car was ice cold. Clearly, they had been given a heavily edited version of the story where I was the cruel villain who kicked his girlfriend out and stole her car for revenge. Unsurprisingly, the details about Emily vacationing with Jordan while asking me not to contact her seemed to have disappeared from her version entirely. To a few people I thought might actually listen fairly, I briefly explained the situation. The text message asking for space, the trip with her ex, the legal ownership of the car. Some understood immediately. Others obviously preferred her version of events. Honestly, I stopped caring. People believe whatever narrative they want. Then yesterday, things escalated again. I received a phone call from my landlord's office. Apparently, someone had filed an anonymous complaint claiming there had recently been loud disturbances, shouting, and confrontations connected to my apartment unit. For a second, my stomach dropped. The whole thing felt deliberate, like someone was trying to create problems for me with the building management. Luckily, I've always had a good relationship with the property manager, so I calmly explained the situation. My ex-girlfriend was living here temporarily, but she wasn't on the lease. We recently broke up. There was a brief argument outside my apartment after she discovered the locks had been changed following her request for no contact and her actions afterward. Her family also stopped by briefly to collect her belongings under supervision. There have been no disturbances inside my apartment, and she no longer lives here. Thankfully, the manager seemed understanding. They told me they would make a note of the complaint, but unless there were verified incidents or additional legitimate complaints, it wouldn't go any further. I'm almost certain Emily or Brooke submitted it hoping to cause trouble for me. Honestly, that move felt especially low. Then, as if the situation needed even more drama, I received a message request on Instagram from Jordan himself. I didn't even bother opening it. I deleted the request immediately and blocked him too. I had zero interest in hearing anything he had to say. Whether he wanted to gloat, justify himself, or stir up more chaos, I simply didn't care. At this point, all the entitlement, manipulation, and attempts to create problems have only reinforced my decision. None of it makes me feel guilty anymore. If anything, it confirms I made the right choice. Because this situation is bigger than one mistake Emily made during a moment of confusion. This is who she really is. And Brooke and Karen clearly enable that behavior every step of the way. The revenge was never some elaborate plan. It was simply me refusing to let myself be treated like a backup option anymore. I simply stepped back and let them collide with reality on their own. The apartment was secure. The lease remained entirely under my name. The complaint against me went nowhere. The car had already been sold, and the money was sitting safely in my account with every legal document backing me up completely. Emily's belongings were gone, and every line of communication had been blocked. At that point, I made a decision. If there were any more threats, harassment, or attempts to contact me, I would immediately involve a lawyer and pursue a formal cease and desist order. In fact, I had already spoken briefly with an attorney just to protect myself and confirm everything legally. According to him, My position regarding both the apartment and the vehicle was extremely solid. Still, the nonstop demands, the victim act, and the attempts to create housing problems for me were honestly disappointing. Did they seriously believe they could pressure, guilt, or manipulate me into restoring the comfortable lifestyle Emily destroyed herself? That's not how reality works. At that point, my focus shifted entirely toward cleaning up the emotional damage left behind. The hardest part wasn't the breakup itself. It was realizing that someone you lived with, trusted, and cared deeply about could be capable of that level of dishonesty, entitlement, and manipulation. But honestly, better to discover it now than years later. Final update. It's now been about 2 months since Emily came back from her little finding myself vacation with Jordan. Things have finally settled down, mostly because I completely stopped feeding the drama after the previous update. I figured I'd share the final outcome for anyone still curious. For a while, the smear campaign continued. A few mutual friends drifted away after believing Emily's version of events without ever bothering to ask for mine. Honestly, that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Anyone willing to judge me based on half a story isn't someone I want around anyway. The people who actually mattered, my real friends, the ones who knew me long before Emily, listened, understood what happened, saw the obvious disrespect, and supported me completely. Emily did attempt a legal move eventually, sort of. I received a poorly written demand letter from what looked like a bargain bin attorney she probably struggled to afford. The letter demanded $10,000, supposedly for her financial contributions toward the car and for emotional distress. The whole thing was full of spelling mistakes, vague threats, and legal nonsense. My response was simple. The lawyer I had consulted drafted a concise but extremely formal reply. He included copies of every relevant document: the vehicle title, loan agreement, registration, and insurance paperwork, all proving the car belonged solely to me. The letter also explained that any money Emily contributed was considered payment for the use and depreciation of the vehicle during the time she drove it. Essentially, rent. Technically, if standard mileage rates were applied, she actually would have owed me money. That part was mostly strategic bluffing, but it made the point very clearly. The lawyer also attached a copy of Emily's original text message asking for space and specifically requesting no contact, along with screenshots of the public vacation photos she posted with Jordan, complete with timestamps. Finally, the letter warned that any continued harassment, false accusations, or attempts to interfere with my housing situation could result in me pursuing legal fees and potentially filing for a restraining order. After that, silence. Total silence. Apparently, her attorney realized immediately that she had absolutely no case and advised her to drop it. A real legal fight would have cost money Emily didn't have anymore, especially without relying on my financial support. Later, through mutual acquaintances, I heard bits and pieces about what happened after everything collapsed. Emily stayed with Brooke temporarily, but that arrangement apparently became a disaster almost immediately because Emily expected Brooke to financially support her while contributing nothing herself. Shocking, I know. As for Jordan, he vanished exactly the way I expected him to once the vacation fantasy ended and real life returned. He was interested in a fun getaway, not long-term responsibility or drama. Vacation over. Story over. From what I heard, Emily then tried leaning heavily on her parents, especially Karen, for money and emotional support. It may have worked temporarily, but they couldn't keep funding the lifestyle she had grown used to forever. The last update I heard was that she eventually moved back to her hometown and ended up living with her parents again. Apparently, she spends most of her time complaining about how unfair life has become and insisting I ruined everything. No accountability, no self-reflection, no genuine remorse. Just constant victim mentality mixed with entitlement. Meanwhile, the best part of all this has been the silence. No more angry texts. No more demands. No more drama. No more Emily. For the first time in a long time, my apartment actually feels like mine again. Last weekend, I repainted the living room and replaced some of the furniture she had picked out. The entire space feels lighter now, like I can finally breathe again. And honestly, The revenge was never loud or dramatic. It wasn't some elaborate scheme. It was quiet, controlled, and logical. I simply respected her request for no contact and allowed the natural consequences of her choices to unfold on their own. She wanted space? She got unlimited space. She prioritized a fling with her ex over the relationship we built together? Then she had to deal with the fallout alone. She treated my support, my apartment, and the car like permanent guarantees she was automatically entitled to. The moment she destroyed the trust holding everything together, she lost access to all of it. And yes, if I'm being completely honest, selling the car she believed was hers while she was off tanning on a beach with another guy did feel satisfying. I won't pretend otherwise. And that empty parking space waiting for her when she got back, absolutely unforgettable. That was the moment reality hit her directly and visibly. She didn't just lose a relationship. She lost the comfortable life she assumed would always be there for her, funded largely by me and protected by my patience. Did the situation hurt me emotionally? Of course it did. It took time to process the betrayal and the realization that someone I loved could treat me that way. But I handled it rationally. I protected myself, set boundaries, and refused to let myself become someone's backup plan. Emily thought she could play both sides and keep me waiting while she explored other options. She underestimated me badly. In the end, she faced the direct consequences of her own choices, her arrogance, and the assumption that everyone around her would continue protecting her from reality. This time, nobody could. And honestly, that's the most satisfying ending I could have hoped for. Goodbye, Emily. Time to finally move forward.